Damson Idris was tapped for Marvel's crown jewel, then uncovered something behind the scenes that made him walk.
There's some speculation out there in the universe that you could be cast as the next Black Panther. Have you had any conversations about that? Yes or no?
Yes, no.
His cryptic yes-no wasn't hesitation, it was a quiet refusal, laced with disgust. And the racism he hinted at? We've uncovered the truth, and it raises serious questions about what's really happening inside Disney. The shocking reason. Damson Idris rejected Disney's offer. Damson Idris just called Disney a bunch of racists. And no, this wasn't some quiet backstage complaint. He said it where everyone could hear it, and he meant every word. The British-Nigerian actor, best known for his breakout role in Snowfall, reportedly turned down the opportunity of a lifetime, playing Black Panther in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's right, he said no to Wakanda. And the reason? According to insiders, conversations with Marvel were going smoothly, until he saw what Disney was really planning. The shocking twist? Damson Idris claims the studio is engaging in what he calls systemic performative race manipulation, allegedly going as far as rewriting legacy Black characters into white savior fantasies, a betrayal that he says would have made Chadwick Boseman walk away too. You think that's intense? Just wait, because we haven't even gotten to the most shocking part of the interview you're about to see. And when the host presses him again, if they asked, would you say yes? Damson nods, yes. So why the mixed signals? What happened between the initial yes and the ultimate rejection? Let's break it down. Damson Idris wasn't just on Marvel's radar. According to multiple reports, he was in active talks to replace T'Challa in a multiversal future storyline, one where Chadwick Boseman's character passes the mantle to his son, now grown up and ready to take on the throne. A storyline teased in Wakanda Forever's emotional post-credit scene. But just as those conversations were heating up, a new Marvel comic issue dropped, and it flipped everything. In Marvel Knights, The World to Come, a new character named Katima, T'Challa's biological son, shows up with a twist that feels like a parody. He's blonde, he's pale, he's blue-eyed. In other words, he's white.
Marvel Comics has kicked off their latest visit to the Marvel Knights imprint with a revelation that at some point in the near future in Earth 616, T'Challa will find himself challenged for both Wakanda throne and Black Panther by his heir apparent, his blonde-haired, white-skinned son, Katima.
What does he do, like 23andMe and find out he was like 3%?
Maybe, I don't know, and I don't care.
The internet exploded. Marvel fans, especially Black fans, called it a slap in the face. And guess who was watching all of this in real time? Damson Idris. So let's connect the dots. Marvel courts Idris, then suddenly drops a canon comic where Black Panther's legacy goes to a white character. Coincidence? Think again. Backlash was instant. Furious tweets, viral outrage, Black Twitter in meltdown. Some fans sarcastically dubbed him the #White Panther. Others speculated about Ryan Gosling playing him in live action.
What if Ryan Gosling is coming into Marvel to play Black Panther after all? New comic, all new Black Panther with the white. This is the photo. This is the depiction right there. The reveal sent social media into meltdown. They looked at this and thought it was a good idea. You want to use a fume? Another quipped, "Life is a horror movie in 2025." People are crashing out. Black Twitter's crashing out over this.
The comic arc describes Katima as T'Challa and Monica Lynn, a Black American jazz singer, somehow resulting in a white son. The math doesn't math, the legacy doesn't track. To Damson, that was the final straw. A source close to the actor claims he was livid and viewed the comic as a deliberate attempt to whitewash Black Panther. The implication? Taking the role now wouldn't honor Boseman. It'd clean up Marvel's mess, so he walked. Let's be crystal clear. This isn't just a fictional story. This is a corporate strategy, an agenda that weaponizes identity, then discards it when the numbers don't work. Need proof? Look at Disney's track record. They proudly promoted a Black Little Mermaid until the film hit China. Then her skin color was digitally altered for local posters. They reimagined Snow White as a Guatemalan teenager, only to face massive box office losses. They even censored classic cartoons like Peter Pan on Disney+, labeling them too racist. And when fans noticed the hypocrisy, they did this. They made the new Black Panther white. Is this what progress looks like? Damson Idris doesn't think so. In fact, in closed-door conversations, he's said to have called the move the ultimate bait and switch, an exploitation of Black culture, Black iconography, and Black trauma, all to make room for a character that looks more like the investors, and others in the industry notice too.
So let's make the Black Panther the White Panther. Now that would have been fine, if you didn't try to have him with some fake lineage to T'Challa. which none of this makes sense.
What Damson did, walking away from Marvel at the peak of his momentum, wasn't just brave, it was necessary. Because had he said yes, the message would have been clear. Black Panther can be white as long as a black actor introduces him. Instead, Damson chose legacy over leverage. He chose pride over paycheck. And now, Disney is scrambling to fix the PR disaster it created. Bob Iger has already gone on record saying that they're trying to de-emphasize the politics, that entertainment should come first. But the audience isn't buying it. Because the truth is, this isn't just about a comic book. It's about a disturbing pattern, a repeat offense, where Disney uses race as a marketing gimmick and drops it the second it becomes inconvenient. And when you look at the numbers, it's hard to argue otherwise. Remember when Disney touted the Snow White remake as a bold step toward inclusion? They cast Rachel Ziegler, an actress of Colombian and Polish descent, as the fairest of them all. Sounds progressive, right? But the real twist? That film flopped before it even launched. Disney had also removed the 7 dwarfs and replaced them with magical creatures, effectively erasing a marginalized community from a movie named after them.
They're remaking the movie, they just got rid of the dwarfs. Okay,
but what do they call them?
Why
now,
would they
too?
get rid of the dwarves, though?
Magical
creatures. But they have one token dwarf amongst these magical creatures. You actually just went backwards. You actually just erased the dwarfism side of it. The disability, like we're a disability group, you just erased that whole image.
Peter Dinklage himself criticized the decision, calling it an ironic act of erasure in the name of political correctness.
Disney is under fire. Obviously, we remember Snow White when Snow White became Hispanic. They're trying to, they clearly haven't learned the lesson, basically. They're doubling down on the weird race plots and castings. This time, Black Panther, the African-American character, is actually white. And fans are outraged. How could Black Panther suddenly become white? This shocking and controversial new twist in the storyline is seriously dividing fans.
So who is Disney really trying to please? Fans, creators, or shareholders? Because when it came time to cast the next Black Panther, they quietly introduced a white successor through the comic books. No press release, no red carpet announcement, just a hushed rollout through Marvel Knights, a low-profile imprint used historically for riskier storylines. But Marvel knew what it was doing. It was the perfect litmus test, and Damson saw through it. Some will say he missed out on his big Marvel moment, that he should have taken the check and kept quiet. But those are the same people who forget what Chadwick Boseman stood for. Boseman turned down roles that didn't honor his culture. Boseman refused to use an African accent in Black Panther until they got it right. He fought to make sure T'Challa would be remembered as a king, not a gimmick. And now, his cinematic son is following in those footsteps, even if it means turning down global superstardom. So where does that leave Disney? Well, if you believe the latest leaks, they're considering everything from retconning Katima's race to burying the storyline altogether. Some fans suspect that Ryan Gosling's name was floated as a decoy, not a serious contender. But the damage is done. When your audience no longer trusts your intent, your diversity isn't progressive, it's propaganda. Hollywood's hidden race game, what Damson Idris exposed by saying no to Disney. When Damson Idris declined the role of Black Panther, it wasn't just a personal choice, it was a bombshell, a lit match thrown onto a trail of gasoline that's been quietly building up behind Hollywood's closed doors for years. This wasn't just about one character, one movie, or even one actor. This was about a system, an entrenched, carefully packaged Hollywood pipeline that markets diversity, but manipulates it from the inside out. Let's talk about what Damson Idris really walked away from. According to insiders, Damson was approached in early 2024 to begin informal talks about playing the son of T'Challa in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a character introduced in Wakanda Forever as a sweet, smiling boy living in Haiti with Nakia. But what fans didn't know was that Marvel already had plans to age him up and cast a rising star in the role. And Damson checked every box: Black, British, beloved by fans, respected by critics, trained under John Singleton, global appeal. The Snowfall star wasn't just a candidate, he was a frontrunner. That is, until someone handed him a comic, specifically Marvel Knights, The World to Come, the issue that introduced Katima, a new version of T'Challa's son, this time white, blonde, and blue-eyed. You don't need to be a screenwriter to know what that signaled, because in Hollywood, comic canon is king. If a storyline is in the comics, it's only a matter of time before it's folded into the films. And with Secret Wars and multiverse timelines incoming, this was no throwaway gag. It was a breadcrumb trail, a test balloon for whitewashing Wakanda. So when Damson got wind of this, he didn't just walk, he slammed the door, and that's when people started talking. Sources close to Marvel told Bounding Into Comics that the character of Katima wasn't originally designed to be white, but somewhere between the early drafts and final print, the character was altered to appear visibly Caucasian, sparking online firestorms and endless comparisons to Ryan Gosling, a fan favorite meme turned almost reality.
That is white, distinctly Caucasian features. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Oh no. What if Ryan Gosling is coming into Marvel to play Black Panther after all?
Now, remember that Gosling name drop, because it wasn't just a fan theory. In fact, multiple YouTubers and pundits speculated that Gosling was secretly in talks with Marvel to join the franchise, and Katima was being positioned as the multiversal Black Panther that would replace the Wakandan lineage in future spin-offs. Why? Because, as one source put it, that character doesn't threaten international box office sales. Translation: white actors sell more in China. It's the same logic that led to Star Wars minimizing John Boyega in overseas posters. It's the same formula that made Disney edit out black characters in some of its biggest releases for foreign markets. And it's the same mindset that had Damson Idris calling executives tone deaf during a heated conversation, according to a source familiar with the talks. Because let's be honest, this isn't inclusion, it's image. Laundering. Let's zoom out. Hollywood has a long and ugly relationship with racial opportunism, and it's not just limited to Disney. Back in the 2000s, black-led films were constantly told to keep their budgets low because black films don't sell globally. But then Black Panther made over $1.3 billion worldwide. Suddenly that changed, or so we thought, because in the years since, we've seen the same pattern play out again and again. 1. Cast a non-white lead. 2. Promote the film as a diversity milestone. 3. Cancel or pivot the franchise when it underperforms domestically or abroad. 4. Blame toxic fandom for the backlash, and the receipts are everywhere. The Little Mermaid was race-swapped, only to have Disney hide Halle Bailey's face on international posters in regions where blackness doesn't test well with audiences. In China, she wasn't black at all. She was blue, literally color-corrected into racial ambiguity. With Star Wars, John Boyega revealed that he was marketed as a main character in the West, only to be reduced and pushed to the side in the sequels, with Disney prioritizing Asian markets that don't respond well to black leads. And now with Black Panther, arguably Marvel's most important cultural property, they're trying to pass the throne to a white man. Katima, blonde, blue-eyed, son of T'Challa. Sound familiar? It's no wonder Damson Idris said no. He wasn't about to become the transitional token. He wasn't about to play a role that, in 5 years, would be rewritten into a setup for Ryan Gosling to lead the franchise. Because the signs are all over the new comic. Katima isn't just a random white dude. They gave him the heart-shaped herb, the mask, the title. They put him in Wakanda. They made him royal. They made him the future.
It is soon to be revealed that the heart-shaped dominoes began to fall when its current king T'Challa is met with a formal combat challenge for the throne from his son Katima, a formidable masked warrior.
The message is clear. Black Panther isn't about black power anymore. It's about brand power. And anyone can wear the suit, as long as they sell tickets. Now here's the kicker. According to sources close to the production pipeline, the original script treatment for Black Panther 3 involved a young T'Challa training under Nakia's guidance, set in Haiti, involving African mysticism and the spirits of previous kings. But as Marvel's box office numbers started dropping, plans reportedly shifted toward multiverse variants, with the studio leaning on bankable faces for broader appeal. That's code. Code for, we need someone more global. Now, whether global means white depends on your interpretation. But for Damson Idris, the writing was on the wall. This was no longer about honoring Boseman's legacy or empowering African identity on screen. It was about pivoting, fast, because the MCU is bleeding. They've lost fan trust. They've lost storytelling coherence. And now, they're losing the few actors who still believe in the art. So what does Damson's rejection actually tell us? It tells us that Hollywood's love for black faces stops the moment the numbers shift. It tells us that representation without power is hollow. It tells us that when a black actor says, this story doesn't respect where it came from, he's treated like a liability, not a visionary. And Disney has done this before. Remember the Proud Family? Louder and Prouder? It was lauded as a win for black culture, until episodes exploring reparations and systemic racism were quietly scrubbed from certain platforms and geo-blocked. Or Song of the South, which Disney still pretends doesn't exist. Or even Peter Pan, Dumbo, The Aristocats, films now banned from children's profiles on Disney, plus due to outdated cultural depictions. But instead of contextualizing that history, they've chosen to erase it, while continuing to profit off the merchandise. This is what Damson meant when he called the industry a bunch of racists. It wasn't just a slur, it was a diagnosis. The system uses black stories when it's convenient, then rewrites them when they become inconvenient. So what's happening inside Disney right now? According to recent interviews with Disney CEO Bob Iger, the company is undergoing a course correction. Iger has publicly said he wants to get out of the culture wars, even claiming that people misunderstood what Disney was trying to do.
The bottom line is that infusing messaging as a sort of a number one priority in our films and TV shows is not what we're up to. They need to be entertaining.
But that quote is loaded, because if you read between the lines, he's not saying they're becoming a political. He's saying they're focusing on entertainment that sells. In other words, when diversity is profitable, it's progressive. When it stops being profitable, it's divisive. And that's why Damson's refusal matters more than ever. His yes would have validated a broken pipeline. His no put Marvel in crisis mode. They can't recast him quietly. They can't spin the story as scheduling conflicts, because fans are already connecting the dots. They know this is a pattern. They've seen it before, and they're not buying it anymore. In fact, fan backlash to the Katima character has been so intense that YouTube is now flooded with videos roasting the move, with titles like White Panther and Marvel does the meme. Memes, that's what it's come to. What began as a vibrant Afrofuturist legacy has now become a punchline, and Marvel did it to themselves. But this story doesn't end here. The legacy war why Marvel's Katima reveal might destroy Black Panther forever. There's a scene in the original Black Panther where Killmonger, standing in front of Wakanda's sacred throne, looks T'Challa in the eye and says, "Is this your king?" It was a line meant to challenge the past, meant to call out the complacency of tradition. But today, that same question is being asked again. And this time, it's aimed at Marvel Studios itself. Is this your king? Because if Katima, Marvel's brand new white, blue-eyed heir to the throne of Wakanda, is what they're rolling out as the future of Black Panther, then maybe it's time to admit Marvel has lost the plot. And the people who built the cultural weight of Wakanda, the actors, the fans, the Black filmmakers, are finally beginning to walk away. Let's talk about what's happening inside Marvel right now. According to insiders who've spoken to The Hollywood Reporter and Deadline, the fallout from the Katima reveal was far more intense than expected. Disney initially believed the storyline would stir up mild controversy, nothing more than another day on Twitter. But what they didn't anticipate was the scale of the backlash, not just from fans, but from within the Marvel creative ecosystem. At least 2 writers tied to upcoming Marvel projects expressed concerns about being involved in a whitewashed Black Panther lineage, one calling the direction a slap in the face to Boseman's legacy, according to an anonymous quote shared with Cosmic Book News. And then came the meeting. An emergency internal Zoom call was held between Marvel marketing leads, Disney Public Relations, and select members of the Black Panther 3 development team. A source who attended the call described it like this: "They were scrambling. Executives kept saying, 'We just need to let the fans cool off.' One person even called it just Twitter noise. Another said, and I quote, 'They'll forget as soon as we drop a new trailer. They'll forget that was the plan.' But here's the thing, the fans didn't forget. And one actor in particular made sure of that. Damson Idris didn't just quietly reject the role. He started talking. Not publicly, not yet. But insiders report that Damson has been privately voicing his frustration at what he calls Disney's addiction to race optics, saying in closed-door conversations that he didn't want to be a prop in someone else's legacy rewrite. That phrase, legacy rewrite, it's now echoing through the Marvel fandom. Because make no mistake, Katima is a rewrite, a deviation from the carefully built, culturally specific world Ryan Coogler and Chadwick Boseman constructed with surgical precision. And now, Marvel has detonated that foundation with a single character reveal, a white heir in Wakanda, in a series rooted in African ancestry, Black excellence, and anti-colonialism. And yes, before you jump into the comments, Katima's mother, Monica Lynn, is canon. She existed in the comics as a Black woman from Georgia. But here's the twist. She was never blonde, she was never white, and she never birthed a white child. So what exactly are we doing here? Let's zoom out for the last time. This isn't just about a comic book character. It's not even just about Damson Idris. It's about a moment, a cultural pivot point, where audiences, particularly Black audiences, are asking themselves, do these studios really care about us? Or are we only valuable when the optics are right, when the hashtags are trending, when the merch needs selling? What Damson Idris did by walking away from Black Panther 3 was more than a career choice. It was a challenge. He called out a system that wants Black faces, but doesn't want Black voices. He rejected a role that would have made him a global superstar because the story underneath it was rotten. And now, the industry is reckoning with what that means. Because for every actor who speaks up like Damson, there are 10 more who stay silent, who take the role, collect the check, and move on. And who could blame them? Hollywood doesn't exactly reward dissent, but every once in a while, someone refuses to play the game. And when they do, the whole table shakes. So what now? According to Entertainment Weekly, Black Panther 3 is still moving forward. Ryan Coogler is still attached, for now. And the child introduced in Wakanda Forever is still expected to take up the mantle eventually. But if Marvel was planning to quietly swap him out for Katima, or introduce him as a multiverse variant, or worse, merge the two characters, they may now be rethinking everything, because the trust has been broken. You can't promote Wakanda Forever as a Black cultural celebration, and then try to Trojan horse introduce a white heir through a backdoor comic panel 6 months later. You can't spend 5 years building a franchise rooted in African power and then pivot to Ryan Gosling in a vibranium suit without consequences. And most of all, you can't replace Chadwick Boseman with a meme. That's what Katima is. That's what White Black Panther has become. A joke, a controversy, a symptom. There's a line in Black Panther that perfectly captures where we are right now. When T'Challa sees the sins of his ancestors, when he learns the truth about what Wakanda has ignored, he says, "I cannot stay silent while people suffer. I cannot sit by and watch." Damson Idris could have stayed silent. He could have taken the role. He could have smiled for the cameras and played the game. Instead, he walked. And in doing so, he reminded all of us of something studios tend to forget. Representation without integrity is just marketing. And now, Marvel and Disney have to decide, do they want to lead the future or just manipulate it? Because if the Katima controversy taught us anything,
I'm sorry. Why? Did you think I'm only half the Jeremy because I got ran over?
Jeremy Renner isn't just frustrated. He's calling out Disney, and he's not the only one. Behind the scenes, Marvel stars have been clashing with the studio, and the pressure is finally starting to show. Now, all eyes are on CEO Bob Iger, as the company faces growing backlash from its biggest names. From lawsuits to quiet rebellion, something's not right at the top, and Iger's job is at stake. In this video, I will be pulling back the curtains on what's really going on with Disney's leadership and its biggest stars. The Jeremy Renner controversy that started it all. At the center of this storm about the Disney CEO getting fired is none other than Jeremy Renner, the actor who's wielded Hawkeye's bow and arrow since his brief cameo in 2011's Thor. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the current controversy, let's rewind the clock to understand the full context of Renner's complicated relationship with Disney and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Renner's journey as Clint Barton hasn't always been smooth sailing. Back in 2016, during a Quanda session in London, he publicly revealed something rather shocking. During the filming of 2012's The Avengers, he was actually lobbying for his character to be killed off. Feeling frustrated with Hawkeye's limited role, especially after being hypnotized by Loki early in the film, Renner was genuinely dissatisfied and frustrated with how his character was being utilized. The actor revealed that his frustration manifested in some pretty dramatic on-set behavior. He reportedly would fake heart attacks during filming, telling director Joss Whedon, "If you just want to kick me out of this movie, Daddy's gonna be having a heart attack." It seemed like Renner was genuinely contemplating an exit from the franchise before it had truly begun for his character. Fast forward to 2015, and Renner found himself embroiled in another controversy during the press tour for Avengers: Age of Ultron. When asked about fans shipping Black Widow with different Avengers, Renner called Scarlett Johansson's character a slut, and his co-star Chris Evans added that she was a complete whore. The comments, while intended as humor, sparked significant backlash on social media, with fans and critics accusing both actors of sexism. Both Renner and Evans eventually issued apologies, with Renner describing his remarks as tasteless and juvenile. However, when he appeared on Conan to discuss the incident, he seemed less than contrite, saying, "I got in a lot of internet trouble. I guess that's a thing now you can get in." His somewhat flippant response only added fuel to the fire. Despite these bumps in the road, Renner's role in the MCU continued to expand, culminating in his own Disney Plus series, Hawkeye, which premiered in 2021. The show paired him with Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop and was generally well received by fans and critics alike. It seemed like Renner had finally found his footing as Hawkeye, and the character had received the development he deserved. But then, tragedy struck on New Year's Day 2023. In a life-altering incident that made headlines worldwide, Renner was involved in a catastrophic accident involving a 330-pound piston bully snow groomer at his Lake Tahoe, Nevada home. The details of the accident are nothing short of horrifying. Renner was attempting to stop the snowplow from sliding toward his nephew when he failed to engage the parking brake or disengage the steel tracks. As he tried to climb back into the cab, he was pulled under the moving tracks and run over by the massive vehicle. The injuries Renner sustained were devastating. 38 broken bones, including 14 rib fractures, a broken cheekbone, and a shattered eye socket. He also suffered a collapsed lung, a pierced liver, and significant facial and chest injuries. His left eyeball was even dislodged. Renner required multiple surgeries and spent over 2 weeks in intensive care. In his memoir, My Next Breath, he revealed that his heart rate slowed to the point of death during the 30 minutes he lay on the ice, describing it as the moment he died before being revived. Amazingly, Renner's recovery progressed well enough that by April 2023, just a few months after the accident, he was able to attend the premiere of his Disney Plus series, Rennervations. By January January 2025, marking the second anniversary of the accident, Renner expressed gratitude to the medical staff, first responders, and his nephew, acknowledging the army of people who helped him survive this horrific ordeal. Given all that Renner had been through, you might think that Disney would be eager to work with him again once he felt ready to return to acting. And indeed, it seems they were, but not on terms that the actor found acceptable. In a bombshell interview with High Performance Podcast in May 2025, Renner revealed something that has set off this current firestorm of controversy. According to the actor, Disney approached him about returning for a second season of Hawkeye, but there was a catch. They were only offering him half of what he made for season 1.
They asked me to do a season 2, and they offered me half the money. And I'm like, wow, it's going to take me twice the amount of work for half the amount of money. And so 8 months of my time, essentially, and to do it for half the amount.
Renner was understandably taken aback by this offer, especially considering that he was still recovering from his near-fatal accident. In the interview, he pointedly questioned whether Disney's reduced offer was somehow related to his injuries.
I'm sorry. Why? Did you think I'm only half the Jeremy because I got ran over?
The actor made it clear that he wasn't seeking an increase in pay. He simply expected to be compensated at the same rate as before.
And we didn't see eye to eye on that. And sadly, and I still love the character, I still love to do it, but I had to defend myself. I didn't ask for any more money by you, right? It just paid me what I made the first season.
What makes the situation even more interesting is that Renner specifically pointed out that the issue wasn't with Marvel Studios itself, but rather with Disney's financial decision makers.
Maybe that's why you want to pay me half of what I made on the first season? And this is not Marvel, mind you, it's just like this Disney, not even really Disney, it's just the penny pinchers, the accountants. I told them to go fly a kite. I mean, just at the insult offer.
The actor's frustration is palpable, and it's not hard to understand why. After surviving an accident that nearly claimed his life and working hard through an extensive rehabilitation process, being offered half his previous salary for what he described as twice the amount of work feels like a slap in the face. Renner noted that the role would require an 8-month commitment, making the reduced pay even more unacceptable. While Renner expressed disappointment about the situation, he also found a silver lining, suggesting that perhaps his body would thank him for not taking on the demanding role so soon after his recovery.
So it's a little disheartening that didn't happen, but that's fine. I'm happy to let that go because my body's probably thanking me, time and time again that I'm not doing it right now. But we'll see.
Renner's revelation has sparked significant backlash against Disney on social media. On X, posts highlighting Disney's lowball offer to Renner after his accident have gained significant traction, with many fans expressing support for the actor and criticism of Disney's approach to talent compensation. The general sentiment online seems to be one of disappointment in Disney for what many perceive as disrespectful treatment of an original Avenger who has been with the franchise since nearly the beginning. This controversy is particularly noteworthy because it's not the first time Disney has faced backlash over its compensation practices for MCU stars. Now, with Renner's revelation about his Hawkeye Season 2 offer, it seems these tensions are far from resolved. The question becomes, is this latest controversy with Jeremy Renner just an isolated incident, or part of a broader pattern of discontent among Marvel stars that could spell trouble for Disney CEO Bob Iger? To answer that, we need to examine how other Avengers actors have been expressing their feelings about Disney's management in recent years, and whether there's a growing momentum of dissatisfaction that could potentially lead to major changes at the top of the Disney hierarchy. As of May 2025, there has been no official confirmation from Disney or Marvel Studios regarding a second season. However, some reports and industry insiders have speculated that filming might begin in fall 2025, with a potential release in late 2026 or early 2027. But these claims lack official corroboration. Renner's public statements indicate that he is not currently involved in the project, and his rejection of the initial offer suggests that any future season would require renegotiation. Some reports have speculated that Haley Steinfeld could return as Kate Bishop, potentially leading the series without Renner, but without an official statement from Disney, the project's status remains uncertain. What is clear, however, is that Renner's story has struck a chord with fans and industry insiders alike, raising questions about how Disney values its talent, particularly those who have been integral to building the MCU into the global phenomenon it is today. Bob Iger's fall from grace, how Disney's CEO lost the public's trust. When Bob Iger returned as Disney's CEO in November 2022, following the abrupt dismissal of his successor Bob Chapek, the public response was overwhelmingly positive. Chapek's tenure had been marred by PR backlashes, a political battle with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis over the Don't Say Gay bill, and unpopular operational changes like Disney Genie Plus and the park reservation systems. Social media platforms erupted with relief and celebration at the news of Iger's return, with thousands of posts and memes expressing joy at the leadership change. One ex-user referenced Chapek's infamous remark about adults not wanting animated movies, while another shared videos of Disney adults reacting positively to the news. Some even compared Iger to Thanos in a positive way, referencing the impact of his Marvel acquisition. The initial sentiment was clear. Iger's return was viewed as a return to stability and excellence after what many perceived as a chaotic period under Chapek. After all, Iger's previous 15-year tenure as CEO had been marked by significant acquisitions, including Lucasfilm, Pixar, and Marvel Studios, moves that transformed Disney into an entertainment powerhouse. Many fans saw this era as a golden age for the company and had high hopes that Iger's return would signal a similar period of prosperity and innovation. However, this honeymoon period didn't last long. By mid-2023, fan sentiment toward Iger had begun to sour dramatically. One of the major turning points came during the Writers Guild of America, WGA, and Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, SAG-AFTRA, strikes, which paralyzed much of Hollywood in 2023. Iger's comments about the strikes were widely perceived as tone-deaf and elitist. He described the writers' and actors' demands as not realistic and labeled the strikes as disruptive, remarks that sparked significant backlash, especially given his own substantial compensation. According to Wikipedia, Iger's annual salary was approximately $27 million, a stark contrast to the average writer's salary of around $65,000 per year. On social media, fans expressed their anger, with many showing sympathy for the striking writers and actors while criticizing Iger's enormous pay disparity. On Reddit, particularly in the R Out of the Loop thread titled, "What's the deal with people suddenly hating Bob Iger recently?" users shared their frustration with Iger's stance. One ex-user posted a particularly damning comparison, highlighting the difference between Disney's actions against strikers and Universal's approach, further fueling the growing discontent with Iger's leadership. But the strikes were just one factor in Iger's declining popularity. His financial decisions have also drawn significant criticism. Fans on forums like Disboards noted Iger's role in leaving Disney with substantial debt, primarily from investments in the Disney Plus streaming platform. There was also considerable backlash when news broke that Disney, under Iger's leadership, was looking to sell off assets like ABC, FX, and Freeform. Adding to the image problem was the revelation that during the COVID-19 pandemic, Iger had forfeited his $3 million chairman's salary, but kept his $46 million CEO compensation, a move many saw as disingenuous at best. These decisions contributed to a growing perception that Iger prioritized profits over people, with comments on Reddit going so far as to label him a scumbag CEO. The issues didn't stop there. Despite Iger's return, many fans felt that Disney's theme parks and content quality hadn't improved as hoped. A Los Angeles Times article noted ongoing fan fury over theme park price hikes and other challenges that continued under Iger's second tenure. The failure of high-profile projects like the Star Wars Hotel, mentioned in an Inside the Magic article, only added to the growing frustration. By late 2023, online forums reflected a mix of disappointment and calls for change. A Disboards post linked to a Business Insider article highlighting low staff morale, layoffs of 7,000 people, and cost cuts of $5.5 billion, all of which likely influenced fan sentiment. Comments on the forum included hopes for a turnaround, but also uncertainty, with one fan stating, "Disney needs to decide if it wants to be a social activist or a profitable company," reflecting the polarization in views about the company's direction. But perhaps most troubling for Iger has been Disney's handling of its live-action Snow White remake, which was released on March 21, 2025. The film, which cost over $270 million to produce, has been a focal point of controversy on multiple fronts, from casting decisions to story changes and the political views of its stars. The casting controversy began in June 2021, when Rachel Zegler, a Latina actress, was cast as Snow White. This decision led to racist backlash from some critics who argued she didn't fit the traditional image of the character, described as having skin as white as snow. Zegler defended her casting, emphasizing the importance of representation, but the debate continued to simmer. In 2023, she even pleaded on X to avoid being tagged in discourse about the role. Then there was the issue of how the film would portray the Seven Dwarfs. In January 2022, Peter Dinklage criticized the remake for its portrayal of dwarfs, calling it backwards. despite the progressive casting of Zegler. Disney responded by saying they would consult with the dwarfism community to avoid stereotypes, but this led to further complications. Dylan Postal criticized Dinklage for potentially taking jobs away from actors with dwarfism. And in February 2025, Disney revealed that only Martin Kleba, an actor with dwarfism, would be among the 7 CGI dwarfs. This decision was criticized by Ali Chapman for excluding other little people. The controversies continued with Zegler's comments about the original 1937 film. In September 2022, she called the original Snow White outdated and criticized the love story as weird, leading to backlash from fans and David Hale Hand, son of the original director, who called the remake a disgrace. This led to the Daily Wire announcing a competing Snow White adaptation focusing on timeless values. Further complicating matters were on-set photos from July 2023 showing magical creatures instead of dwarfs, causing confusion. Disney clarified they were fake or stand-ins, but Postal expressed disappointment, highlighting missed opportunities for actors with dwarfism. The political views of the film's stars also became a flashpoint. Gal Gadot's pro-Israel stance following the October 7, 2023, Hamas attacks led to boycott calls, while Zegler reaffirmed her pro-Palestine stance, creating tension between the co-stars. Media outlets like Newsweek highlighted these tensions, adding another layer of controversy to the project. In November 2024, Zegler criticized Trump's re-election, calling for no peace for his supporters, which led to calls for a boycott from MAGA supporters. She later apologized on Instagram after Megyn Kelly demanded Disney fire her. The fallout from these controversies was significant. Disney scaled back the film's premiere, limiting it to photographers and house interviewers. While Kleba claimed this was due to the Ziegler controversy, sources downplayed tensions. Nonetheless, the film opened to mixed reviews and underwhelming box office projections of $45 million to $55 million, lagging behind other Disney remakes. There's also been a major legal controversy that has tarnished Disney's image under Iger's leadership. In October 2023, a patron at Walt Disney World Resort died from a severe allergic reaction after eating at a restaurant on the property, leading to a wrongful death lawsuit filed in February 2024 by her husband, alleging negligence. The incident involved Dr. Kanokporn Tang Swan, who had severe dairy and nut allergies, and allegedly chose the restaurant due to assurances it could accommodate her needs. Disney initially sought to dismiss the case by invoking arbitration clauses from the husband's 2019 Disney Plus free trial agreement, arguing it extended to all disputes with Disney affiliates. This move was widely criticized as surreal. Following the backlash, Disney reversed course in August 2024, with Josh D'Amaro stating, "At Disney, we strive to put humanity above all other considerations," and agreed to waive arbitration. The case is now set for court, with a hearing initially scheduled for October 2, 2024, but canceled after Disney's reversal. As of May 2025, the lawsuit remains ongoing, raising questions about arbitration clause, enforceability. Adding to Disney's woes under Iger's leadership have been operational controversies, particularly around price increases and changes to guest services. Disney World has implemented significant price hikes for 2025 tickets, increasing by $5 to $10 for most dates from January through October, with peak season prices for November and December hitting new record highs. Several dining options have also seen increases, with character meals like Crystal Palace rising to $52 per adult for breakfast, up from $48, and $62 for lunch, dinner, up from $61. In 2024, Disney overhauled the Disability Access Service, DAS program, intended for guests with developmental disabilities, drawing backlash for being less accommodating. To offset some of these costs, Disney introduced discounts like free water park tickets for on-site hotel guests in 2025, but this hasn't fully addressed the concerns about affordability. Reports indicate that there have been internal discussions at Disney about the high prices, with some executives worrying that the company has reached affordability limits for middle-class Americans. Upon his return as CEO, Iger reportedly asked for strategies to win back fans, including freezing ticket increases, but the continued price hikes suggest these concerns haven't translated into meaningful policy changes. One of the most significant political controversies during Iger's second tenure has been Disney's feud with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis over the Parental Rights in Education Bill, commonly known as the Don't Say Gay Bill. This legislation, signed into law in March 2022 before Iger's return, prohibited classroom instruction on sexual orientation or gender identity in kindergarten through third grade in Florida public schools. While the initial controversy began under former CEO Bob Chapek, it escalated into 2023 and 2024. Disney initially faced internal and external backlash for remaining silent on the bill, with employees staging walkouts and protests. interests. After public pressure, Disney publicly opposed the bill, calling for its repeal, which led to a direct confrontation with DeSantis. In April 2022, DeSantis signed a bill to dissolve Disney's special tax district, the Reedy Creek Improvement District, which had allowed Disney to self-govern its operations in Florida. This move was widely interpreted as retaliation for Disney's stance, sparking a legal battle that continued into 2024. Disney alleged retaliation for its free speech, while DeSantis countersued, claiming Disney was attempting to undermine state authority. However, on March 28, 2024, Disney and a board appointed by DeSantis settled their lawsuits, resolving the dispute over the district's control. The settlement made a last-minute agreement by Disney null and void, and allowed the board to work with Disney on updating the district's comprehensive plan. Disney committed to investing at least $30 billion over the next decade in its theme parks, including $17 billion in Orlando. While this settlement represented a resolution to the immediate legal battle, the reputational damage to Disney and the perception that the company had been outmaneuvered by DeSantis continued to linger, further contributing to the declining faith in Iger's leadership. All of these controversies have contributed to a growing sense that Iger's second tenure as Disney CEO has not lived up to the high expectations set when he returned in 2022. What was initially seen as a triumphant return to form for the company has instead become a period marked by controversy, financial struggles, and declining public trust. But has this discontent reached a level where Iger's position could actually be in jeopardy? Marvel's Civil War. Are other Avengers stars joining the rebellion against Disney? The Marvel Cinematic Universe has been the crown jewel of Disney's entertainment empire since the company acquired Marvel in 2009. The interconnected superhero franchise has generated billions at the box office and helped launch Disney Plus to streaming prominence. But behind the scenes, a different kind of Avengers story has been unfolding, one where the stars who helped build this juggernaut have increasingly found themselves at odds with the studio's decision-makers. While Jeremy Renner's recent salary dispute over Hawkeye Season 2 has grabbed headlines, he's far from the only Marvel actor to have voiced concerns about Disney's approach to talent management and creative decisions. In fact, looking at the past decade, we can see a pattern of tensions between the Avengers stars and the studio that has only intensified in recent years. One of the most significant disputes involves Scarlett Johansson, who played Natasha Romanoff Black Widow in the MCU for over a decade. In July 2021, Johansson filed a lawsuit against Disney in Los Angeles Superior Court, alleging breach of contract over the release strategy for Black Widow. The film was released simultaneously in theaters and on Disney Plus Premier Access, a decision Johansson claimed reduced her earnings, as her contract tied a significant portion of her compensation to box office performance. Johansson's legal team argued that Disney's dual release strategy, motivated by the COVID-19 pandemic, siphoned potential theatergoers, costing her tens of millions in potential earnings. Disney responded aggressively, revealing her $20 million base salary and claiming she was being insensitive to the pandemic's impact, which only escalated the public nature of the dispute. The lawsuit was eventually settled in October 2021, with terms not disclosed. After the settlement, Johansson stated, "I am happy to have resolved our differences with Disney," and Disney's Alan Bergman expressed a desire for future collaborations, including a planned Tower of Terror project. Another MCU actor who has expressed frustration with the franchise is Chris Hemsworth, who portrays Thor. In 2023 and 2024 interviews, Hemsworth expressed dissatisfaction with his performance in Thor: Love and Thunder 2022, calling it too silly and feeling he became a parody of himself. While this was more of a creative self-critique than a direct controversy with Disney, it reflected growing concerns about the direction of certain MCU characters and narratives. In a later interview with Vanity Fair, Hemsworth expanded on his frustrations with the Marvel formula, suggesting that the studio's approach had become too rigid and predictable. While he didn't directly criticize Disney's management, his comments added to the sense that even the franchise's biggest stars were becoming disenchanted with the creative decisions being made. More recently, in January 2025, Anthony Mackie, who took on the role of Sam Wilson, Captain America, following The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, found himself at the center of a controversy during the promotional tour for Captain America: Brave New World in Rome. Mackie stated, "For me, Captain America represents a lot of different things, and I don't think the term America should be one of those representations, emphasizing values like honor, dignity, and integrity as universal rather than nationally specific." These comments drew significant backlash, particularly from conservative groups, who interpreted them as unpatriotic. Social media saw calls for a boycott, with some labeling the film woke garbage. Facing the backlash, Mackie, clarified his stance on Instagram stories, stating, "Let me be clear about this. I'm a proud American, and taking on the shield of a hero like Cap is the honor of a lifetime. I have the utmost respect for those who serve and have served our country. Cap has universal characteristics that people all over the world can relate to." The film's director, Julius Ona, also defended Mackie, telling Variety that the comments were misinterpreted, emphasizing themes of community and empathy in the film, aligning with Mackie's portrayal of Sam Wilson. But perhaps one of the most telling examples of the complicated relationship between Marvel actors and Disney can be found by looking back at Mark Ruffalo, who plays Bruce Banner, Hulk. Unlike many of his fellow Avengers, Ruffalo has never received a solo Hulk film, despite being a fan favorite. This isn't due to lack of interest from the actor or audiences, but rather because of complex licensing issues between Marvel Studios and Universal Pictures. As reported by Hindustan Times, Universal Pictures still holds the distribution rights to any standalone Hulk films, which has prevented Disney from producing a Ruffalo-led Hulk movie. While this situation predates Iger's current tenure, it represents another instance where business decisions have impacted the creative and professional opportunities for Marvel stars, contributing to a sense that the actor's interests aren't always prioritized. Looking at these examples collectively, a pattern emerges. Marvel's stars have repeatedly found themselves at odds with Disney's business practices, creative decisions, and public relations strategies. While not every actor has directly criticized Bob Iger or called for his removal, the accumulation of these incidents creates an environment where talent feels undervalued or constrained. Precisely the sentiment that Jeremy Renner expressed in his recent interview about the Hawkeye salary dispute. But is there any evidence that these various controversies could actually lead to Iger's removal as CEO? When Iger returned as CEO in November 2022, it was initially described as a temporary arrangement, with the intention of finding a permanent successor within 2 years. However, in July 2023, Disney announced that Iger had agreed to extend his contract through December 31st, 2026, giving him more time to navigate the company through various challenges and groom a successor. In January 2025, Disney appointed James Gorman, the former CEO of Morgan Stanley, as chairman of the board, with plans to announce Iger's replacement as CEO in early 2026. This timeline suggests that Disney is committed to an orderly transition of power, rather than an abrupt dismissal of Iger. Furthermore, while Iger has certainly faced criticism, there's no evidence of a coordinated effort among Marvel stars or other stakeholders to have him removed. The controversies we've examined, including Renner's salary dispute, seem to be isolated incidents rather than part of a larger campaign against Iger's leadership. It's also worth noting that Iger's compensation for 2024 was reported to be $41 million in January 2025, suggesting that the Disney board still has confidence in his leadership despite the various controversies. This represents a significant increase from his previous compensation package, further indicating that his position is not immediately threatened. That said, the cumulative impact of these controversies could certainly influence Disney's long-term leadership plans, especially if they begin to affect the company's bottom line or cause high-profile talent to seek opportunities elsewhere. The entertainment industry is heavily reliant on relationships and reputation, and a perception that Disney doesn't treat its stars fairly could make it harder for the company to attract and retain top talent in the future. As for the specific issue of Jeremy Renner and Hawkeye Season 2, it's unclear how this will ultimately be resolved. Disney has not publicly responded to Renner's claims about the salary offer, although a Disney insider reportedly disputed his account, according to The Hollywood Reporter. Given the public backlash, it's possible that Disney might reconsider its approach and come back with a more favorable offer, especially if they believe Hawkeye Season 2 has significant commercial potential. But for now, all of this remains speculative. While the controversies we've examined certainly paint a picture of growing discontent with Disney's leadership under Iger, there's no concrete evidence that his position is in imminent danger or that a coordinated rebellion of Marvel stars is underway. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.